So this is a little video for my self-hypnosis playlist. Uh, Writing this entry was a trigger for me to start a new section in my notes, rewriting and reclassifying my notes on various self-hypnosis tricks. And I'd like to show the latest set of tricks, so to speak. And I'm grateful to Persinger for reminding me about this angle. Uh, this paper, for example, suggests that if we take away the sound and reproduce just electromagnetic impulses, which are usually produced by the dynamics. So dynamics, they are not only emitting the sound, but also electromagnetic waves. And if we modulate just the electromagnetic waves with the words, we can measure the suggestive power. And suggestion works on electromagnetic level. Very interesting experimental proof of that provided by Soroka and Persinger. So he kind of reminded me of the validity of that angle, of I mean, I know it works for me. It is one of major tricks in my sleeve. These and it's not correct to call them subliminals because a subliminal is something we don't hear. And when I use a computer to repeat, and one of the major hypnotic tools is repetition. And when I use a computer to repeat the words for me, to repeat suggestions, I'm not using it as a subliminal. Instead, I look for the level of a sound which is on the margin between what I can hear and what I cannot hear on the margin. So if I listen carefully, I can hear the suggestion, but it is also on the level which isn't distracting me from anything. So we don't even have a term for this. So we have the term subliminal, but it's not actually a subliminal. It's on the margin. And also, per Persinger, it works not just on the sound level, but also electromagnetically. And by the way, speaking of suggestions, I was trying to teach the artificial intelligence to produce verse or poetic suggestions. So I'm collecting some poetry, and it is prepended with a hint. So hint and then point, hint and point. And this teaches the language model AI to follow up a hint with a point. So for example, here I gave a hint consensus, and I've asked artificial intelligence to generate something, and it generates some interesting pieces. So consensus, we are all ghosts of a time when we were alive. For me, this is a very meaningful piece because life is experiment. And experiment is a deviation from consensus. Hypothesis is a deviation from consensus. So consensus is actually what remains after a successful experiment, but it is no longer an experiment. So ghosts of a time when we were alive, ghosts of a time when we were alive. It is a very fitting capture of consensus. So if I want to turn a piece of text into a suggestion, I can press a hotkey, and the text will automatically go into 15 AI. I will have versions of the text. I can change the voice. I can, with a single click, download the files. And now I can move these files into a special folder. Oh, and as soon as the files land in this folder, they are played at random and with a considerable pause. And moving the files away stops this play. So I can move any selection of files into a folder, and they are played at random from this folder. So any text, and in Visual Studio Code, I have some samples, and I can improve them. So the advantage of this is that I don't have to reinvent the text every time from scratch. I can have a piece that I'm working on and improving gradually. And anytime I can select select this text and send it with just a single keystroke, send it to artificial intelligence artificial intelligence voice generation. And the cool property of 15 AI is that every time the voice is a little bit different, it has a different different words are stressed on the melody of the text is different. So every generation is unique, and this is also important because our biological system is designed to filter away repetitive input. Uh, and for example, scanner devices or tenant biomodulator devices, they show much greater efficacy, therapeutic efficacy, because they change the signal, change uh, the shape of the signal generated when we use them for electropuncture, for example. So it is a known property that by making the signal unique, we can greatly increase uh, its capacity for affecting a human system. So here we can generate a number of versions, uh, every of them unique and maybe with different voices and played at random in random order. Uh, they greatly improve, I think, the efficacy of these suggestions compared to a single record set on repeat. But anyhow, to make it all possible, I'm using a number of code pieces I've made. For starters, I'm disabling some of the Windows hotkeys in order to use them from Visual Studio Code. And then I'm of course uh, binding an action to a script and binding a hotkey to that action. And that action takes the selection from Visual Studio Code and passes it into a Python script because I find it more convenient to work with browser from Python, and the Python code then submits this text to 15AI. So this covers the path from selecting text and pressing hotkey and seeing it in 15AI. And once I put the files into a folder, another script starts to work, which takes the files from the folder, selects one at random, and plays it at a volume which is on the margin of hearing. And what's interesting is that it happens to be simpler to decode the WAV file, get the actual samples, audio samples in each audio, uh, in each time, in every tick, in every time tick, and downsample, reducing the volume, and then submit this modified file to sound. It happens to be easier to decode and downsample than it is to configure the windows to make the sound to reduce the volume of the application. There is such an IP, but it's hard to access. But it is, I think it's cool because maybe I can do something else with the sound. Maybe I can generate some new sounds using these same mechanics. For example, some infrarange frequencies are actually more hypnotic than others. So we can generate a 25 hertz signal in background during and a bit after the suggestion in order to disrupt the refutation process and make the suggestion to help us bypass the critical faculty, for example. Or we can use some other frequencies to boost the episodic memory of the right hemisphere. So I don't think I would go that. It's cool that we have access to the actual sound.